As thousands were killed and Nigeria recorded its deadliest year in a decade, one other country was keeping tabs. Throughout the year, murmurs of a Christian genocide in Nigeria rumbled across evangelical and lobby groups in the corridors of Washington, growing louder until even the U.S. President, Donald Trump, a man notorious for his America First policy, took note. He issued out a stern warning, or if you like, threat, ordering the Pentagon to begin planning for action in Nigeria, threatening to go into the country guns blazing over attacks on Christians. The remarks came as the administration moved to fill long vacant diplomatic posts abroad. Since the start of the presidency, ambassadorial nominations had been slow, leaving Nigeria without a confirmed U.S. ambassador, or any ambassador for that matter at all. Well, and for their expert analysis on this and other stories of the year, I'm joined now by the development expert and business and economic analyst, Dr. Taufik Raimi, who is a member of the ruling All Progressives Congress, public affairs analyst and columnist at Daily Trust, Ilyasu, and public affairs analyst Mas Dixon Iroegbu, who is both a PDP member and an obedient. I'm learning that Dixon isn't here yet. When he joins us, we'll get him to join the program. Gentlemen, you're welcome. Glad to have you join us.
Thank you very much. Also, I'm happy to be here.
All right. Well, let's start off with the Nigeria-U.S. relations. As you heard me say, they eventually things seem to turn, if you like, use the word good, but let's start with the CPC imbroglio. That is Nigeria being designated a country of particular concern by U.S., the President Donald Trump, which of course led to that threat of U.S. military action by Trump against Islamists here in Nigeria. Ilyasu.
Well, it had been building up. You know, when you have a president of the like of Trump, an unprecedented one, you are likely to have all kinds of, rhetoric flying around. And since he came, he's been more or less, speaking very loudly about, his intention to make America first in all his dealings. And this, appeals to his core constituents, the right-wing, America,
Republicans.
So,
the MAGA group.
Exactly. So it wasn't, surprising that he's been running around the world trying to look for causes. First, it was the tariffs against even Canada, which is the closest neighbor to America, and
allied,
and then an ally too, and then it was also to other countries, China, of course, you could expect that, Russia, and the rest of them. And then when he turned his sights to Nigeria, it was to look at what's happening, what has been happening over the past decade or so, and that is the issue of the killings. And this time around, he just didn't, stop at just the rhetorics. He even, threatened, after some of the after getting the Congress to be informed about what was happening, and of course, the issue was, first put together by Senator Ted Cruz of Texas, and a few other, right-wing Republicans, Christian people, who said that, look, there was a lot of killings, alleged killings of Christians in Nigeria, and of course, Nigerians too. A bishop from Nigeria, went to the Congress and briefed them about such things. So, at some point, they decided that, okay, we are going to see what we can do about it, and then, of course, that precipitated the issue of declaring Nigeria a country of particular concern. And then subsequently, he now asked the defense, or rather the war secretary, Pete Hegseth, to arrange plans to attack Nigeria, or attack the areas where, Christian genocide is raging. So that is what, has brought about the debacle between Nigeria and America. It's been going back and forth. The Nigerian government has tried to at least, explain itself to the Americans that this is not what you're saying, that we are trying as much as possible to do that. But it appears that the Americans are not are not convinced. So though of course there have been, some mellowing down of their position for now, but as they said, the options are still on the table, and that's where we are at the moment.
That's where we are at the moment. I remember the former president, Olusegun Obasanjo, said this question, this talk about whether it's a Christian that is killed or is a Muslim that is killed, it just makes nonsense of the whole issue. Lives are important. But then, Nigeria's firm rejection, touting its sovereignty. Taufik.
Yeah, thank you very much, ND. First of all, let me say Merry Christmas in advance. Of course, tomorrow is Christmas Day. To all our viewers and all Nigerians and all our people across the globe. It's a period to reflect. It's a period of love. It's a period that should not only be for now, it's a celebration of love, celebration of care, celebration of peace, celebration of joy. It's one that should continue forever in Nigeria. Be that as it may. You've asked a very great question, ND, about the President of America, President Trump, position about Christian genocide that is alleged to have been happening in Nigeria over the time. Of course, of the stories about these has already been debated in the last 4 weeks, 8 weeks, and I think for me, I would just want to conceptualize it, my response on what I call PPF. The past, the present, and the future. On the subject matter. What I mean by this is that what was alleged, how has it been debated within the Nigerian government. The federal government has come to a position of explanation to America, to the president, President Trump, that what has been happening in Nigeria over the past decade or 1.5 decades is not just is not a Christian genocide. Rather, it's a mix of banditry, terrorism, resource, competition for resource and all that. In order to, so the president of our country, His Excellency Bola Ahmed Tinubu, GCFR administration, for me was calm. When the President of America first evoked the idea of gun blazing, threat. So that calmness and the fact that, was very good, was a good strategy, despite the so much debate within our country at itself. So that calmness now led to, sending a high-level, high-powered delegation from Nigeria government to America, as you will recall, led by, articulate NSA, National Security Advisor, Noru Ribadu, who led the team of federal government of Nigeria to explain to the government of America. And that seems to have yielded some positive understanding. Then now, again, that led to American government also come into Nigeria. 2 delegations, high-level delegation has also visited us on a fact-finding mission, And for me, where we are moving from the past of the subject to the present is that there seems to have occurred what I call a spirit of collaboration, cooperation, and also commitment towards solving the problem. Because for many of us in Nigeria, it is Christians are being killed affordably. Muslims are also being killed. And for me, my position have always been that let's all have been on deck, whether from America or by our own government or all other people who could collaborate with us to stop the killing. Because the life of Nigerian is something that is irreplaceable when it is affordably terminated. So where we are currently, it gives good sign. And indeed, it gives good sign that there is now collaboration. Just 2 days ago, another high-level delegation of from America, led by really more, again with Rep. Franklin, Rep. Mario, all of them, they seems to I've had series of meetings with government, functionally in Nigeria, with Christians, and so I believe that we are on course of resolving the problem. The future of it that I'm looking at is trying to now set up this dialogic,
I think you've gone ahead of me. Let me just get to it. Dixon, glad you listened to their talk, but from, all this imbroglio between America and Nigeria, from this came signing of a 5-year, $5.1 billion bilateral health cooperation. Now, the U.S. is set to provide $2.1 billion in grant funding, while Nigeria commits about $3 billion to strengthen healthcare system with particular emphasis on faith-based healthcare providers. That's a good one, but then some would say, did you have to wait for U.S. to intervene before you start dealing with health issues? Yes, Dixon.
Yeah, that's where we found ourselves. Thank you, Indy, and sorry I'm a bit late.
It's okay.
It's just one of those rowdy moments. Yes, we found ourselves here today. It took America's intervention for human lives in our country to have some element of value. I listened to my brother colleague a bit earlier when he was trying to talk about the issue of Christian genocide or no Christian genocide. The truth is that we seem to be playing the ostrich. Is there Christian genocide in Nigeria? First off, the level of impunity that came with having a Muslim ticket in Nigeria is enough to provoke that very tweet that came from the President of America. Before now, it appeared that nobody cared. But after that tweet, we saw the government of our country, attempting to do everything possible to probably cover up the ills in our country. There is Christian genocide in Nigeria. Let's not pretend about it. Are there other citizens of the country being killed? Oh, yes. Both Muslims, Christians, and non-believers are being killed. But that tweet that went viral across the globe, that called the attention of the global community to the happenings, the ills in our country, indeed, yes, it is appropriately positioned by the President of America. There is, Christian genocide in our country. Let's not pretend about it. But the aspect of eventual intervention, as we have seen from the American government, we appreciate it. But like you rightly asked, do we have to wait for people to come from outside to enable us do the right things that we should do for our people? Governance in our country is not about the people. Also, it has appeared for the past 10 years that APC has held sway. Governance is just about the cronies that are in government, the ruling class, so they don't care. Because if not, ask yourself, what is the National Assembly doing about these terrible things that are, happening in our country? Every day in this country, since APC came to power, since 2015, every day, not less than at least 100 to 150 Nigerians are slaughtered. And we're not at war. Places where there's war, we've not seen that. Ukraine, that is at war, has not recorded the number of deaths that we record daily in our country. So we thank God for the intervention. I stated in one of those appearances on this platform that there is still God that rules in the affairs of men, after all. If not for the voices that started coming from the international community, we probably would have gone extinct by now, and possibly would have had everywhere Muslim everywhere. It's unfortunate that we have found ourselves here, right. But honestly, there's something wrong with the class of leaders that we have in our country, right, that would have to wait for people outside to engage them before they sit up to do what they ought to do for their people. It's sad, it's unfortunate.
All right, Dixon, back to you, Ilyasu, still on the fallout of the back and forth, and then things that came out of this back and forth with the United States on security agreement, a security agreement was reached to enhance intelligence sharing, military logistics to help Nigeria counter terrorism. Nigerian authorities harped on cooperation, not threats. Said what should be happening is how do we cooperate? How do we dialogue to cooperate and not just threaten Nigeria about Ilyasu, about the events that transpired that caused Trump to speak the way he spoke?
I think that's the way to go. If you identify a problem in a certain jurisdiction and you feel that that jurisdiction is not handling the way it should be handled, and you feel you have something to give, the way to go is to sit down to a dialogue. America and Nigeria has had very, very wonderful relationship over the year, and this relationship has yielded quite a lot of things to Nigeria, beneficial both to America and to Nigeria. And it hasn't gone to the point where, America, for whatever reasons, would threaten military intervention in Nigeria. We're not at war with America. We're not a threat to America. If America identifies something by its, resources in terms of intelligence, in terms of whatever, and says, look, we have identified that this is happening in your country, and can we sit down to dialogue and see how we can help you solve it? I mean, you remember the time of General Buhari. There was this thing about, look, we are having a lot of problems with terrorists. We can't identify them. We can't reach them, and all that. They are fighting us asymmetrically. So what we need to do is, some platforms that could even help us reach them, deliver the goods from the top. And that's how the issue about the Tucano fighters were agreed upon and delivered to Nigeria. And of course, we've seen the effect of it. The Air Force is now giving them a roasting. Now, what we are saying is that Trump should have at least said, okay, yeah, we have identified that there are lots of killings and a preponderant proportion of those being killed are Christians. And then so we would want, and we also identify too that Muslims, Nigerian Muslims as well as Christians are being killed. So we would provide intelligence and resourcing and all kinds of things to be able to solve these problems. You cannot come into Nigeria and say you're going to, attack areas where, without even the support of Nigeria. We have armed forces. They have done similar things in other parts of Africa, in Southern Africa, in Western Africa. They have the capacity and sit down with them, talk with them and say, look, hey guys, where are your issues? Where are your problems? Can we work on this thing and resolve it? Not to go in a gung-ho way that the American president has done with rhetorics.
Guns are blazing.
And yeah, guns are blazing. That is an unprecedented,
way to go.
Way to go, because we are not, as I know, a threat to America. We do not threaten. In fact, we welcome Americans. We have a lot of economic, trade, social, and have a very, very vibrant Nigerian diaspora in America. So all these things should be taken into account. Not saying you're going to come in guns blazing. If you come in guns blazing, how are you going to solve the problems? Are you going to come by air? Are you going to come with boots on the ground, or what? And at the end of the day, are you going to solve the problem or escalate the problem?
Especially when America was saying we're not interested in putting boots on the ground in places that have wars like Ukraine, like Russia and all that. So you wonder why Nigeria's case was going to be different. Well, let's move up from that and talk about the fact that Nigeria was included in the partial list of countries banned from entering into the U.S. I mean, you had two lists. You had the major list of countries, and then you had the partial list that Nigeria came into. And then, of course, parents, children were worried, businessmen were worried about how is this going to work in terms of visa. But, of course, athletes were not included, and the diplomats were also not included in that. What do you make of that? That the visa and entry ban that Trump?
Okay. So thank you. Let me quickly make one or two statements to correct what my colleague your off-station mentioned. The PDP member and obedient. You see, the killings that have been happening in Nigeria does not know political affiliation. All this idea of people like him always tagging what has been happening to APC about the killing in Nigeria is wrong. Because if you trace back even the time when this problem of killing in the northern part of Nigeria started, APC was not in power. It was PDP that was in power. The Boko Haram started under PDP. So you're trying to now always arguing that killing in Nigeria is as a result of APC government since 2015 is a fallacy, and it should stop. That's one. Two, no, please, two, let me also correct him, because this is the second time both of us will be on this platform.
Don't forget to address the issue
where you will be quoting number of people that are being killed on daily basis in Nigeria. You keep saying 100 to 150. Where is the statistics? Where is the data? All this misinformation about our country, characterizing our country, should stop. That be my response as regards such misinformation to the public, because this is a good platform for the entire world. Now about visa ban. You see, every country government has the prerogative to set rules as regards how to, how to grant visa to people from other countries.
It's foreign policy.
Its foreign policy is dependent on their belief. Of course, American government has argued, and they have given conditions or reasons why this ban has been placed. I want to move always beyond, after conceptualizing or diagnosing a problem. I'm always looking at what are the ways to come out of it. What have they said were the causes? Our federal government and our people, even citizens, have been. We need to put our own house in order. There are what I would call push factors that are causing drift of millions or thousands of Nigeria, hundreds and thousands of Nigeria moving out of this country. Nigeria, 230 million people. We are well blessed, both with material and human resources. All we need to do is not that we will not be having immigration or emigration, people migrating from our country to another country. Of course, that is how society is configured. But what we are saying is that if our government at every level, federal, state, local government, continue to deliver good governance, it will reduce the influx of people out of Nigeria. And I think this current administration has commenced since 2023 a number of reforms that, if continued for some years, would definitely reshape, reconfigure, and reposition our country for the betterment of our economic growth, for peace and tranquility to progress. And so we need to develop our country in order to retain most of us, and then even for those who are abroad to also come and invest.
Yeah, then Bob also talked about failures in vetting and screening system overseas, that countries he mentioned were not taking vetting and screening seriously, and he says these restrictions will stay in place until what he's talking about is corrected. So, I mean, for now, it's going to stay in place until that is done. That is what Trump said. Dixon, finally, after 2+ years, Nigeria gets ambassadors. But some of these ambassadors raised eyebrows, especially the INEC chairman Mahmoud and Reno Omokri. What do you have to say to that?
Like I have stated, about the government of the day and the APC, recall that when Buhari came to power in 2015, it took him over 6 months before he could even name ministers. And so it has become the way of the APC style of governance. Tinubu has held the country down for about 2 years before the prompting from abroad and all of that informed the eventual announcement of the names that we saw as ambassadors. Some of them, you give it to them, a very few of them, you give them, they are well eligibly qualified for the position that they have been given. But because, like I stated earlier, the APC government has shown clearly that it's not about the Nigerian people. So even the appointments of these ambassadors, like the names you mentioned, Reno Omokri, who has over the years shown hate against Nigerians from a particular section, from my section, the southeastern Nigeria. This man has shown bigotry every now and then as a mercenary set up against the people to annihilate, to possibly extinguish the southeastern people. And that is who has been rewarded with ambassadorial appointment by the Tinubu administration. And so I'm not surprised that it took long to announce this crop of names that we eventually have. And you now also wonder, why is Nigeria the way it is today? It's simply because the style of governance is zero. It's all about the cabal, so-called, that are ruining our country. So I'm not excited because some of the names that you have mentioned, they don't in any way speak well. They cannot represent my country because they are not in any way good ambassadors of our country by their antecedents. But this government doesn't care. As long as you are singing their praises, as long as you are, doing their bidding, they don't care whatever baggages you're coming along with. So the image of our country is in ruins. And you wonder why the likes of President Donald J. Trump has described our country as a now disgraced nation. It is things like this. So you ask yourself, the likes of Rain or Mockery, where is he going to be representing Nigeria? What will he say about the country? And how will the host nation receive him when his antecedents are out there in the public domain? And to respond to my brother who frowned against my position about how that APC, since they came to power since 2015, have witnessed bloodletting by the day. It's unfortunate. Maybe the number, you're quarreling with it, 100 is too much for you. You're probably looking at 50 or 20. Any one life lost should matter to any leader or anybody who calls himself a politician. The lives of Nigerians should matter to you. It doesn't matter the number. There's no day one Nigerian is not slaughtered. Okay, let me leave the number of 100. Is there any day in our country that people are not being slaughtered, that people are not being killed, that people are not being kidnapped and all of that, and ransoms being paid under the watch of APC? And you're trying to compare the PDP government and the APC government. How could you? How could you? All right. By every means, the leaders of APC told the world how that they brought in these mercenaries into our country to ensure that they took out PDP by every means possible.
We'll continue.
And that's why we have found ourselves today.
All right.
And you're quarreling with it. These are facts in the public domain.
All right. Well, I'm going to have to go. I'm going to have to go on a short break. I will get back, and then maybe, because we're going to move over to some other topic, but if you have maybe a little thing to add, maybe I could allow it. But we're going to be discussing the oil industry, and then, of course, notable deaths this year, people that passed on to the great beyond. We'll be back in just a bit. Don't go away. The year draws to a close. Nigeria's oil and gas industry has once again found itself at the center of the country's economic fortunes. The Dangote refinery remained a focal point of national attention. The facility moved closer to sustained operations, raising hopes that Nigeria could finally reduce its long-standing dependence on imported fuel. However, disputes over pricing, crude supply, and regulation underscored the complexities of reforming the sector. I still have with me in the studio the development expert and business and economic analyst, Dr. Taufik Raimi, who is a member of the ruling APC party, public affairs analyst and columnist at Daily Trust, Ilyasu, and public affairs analyst Dixon Iroegbu, who is both a PDP member and obedient. Gentlemen, glad to still have you here with me. Let me come to you, Ilyasu. Just briefly, wanted to chip in on the question of the ambassadors, and I go to the industry.
In respect to the issue of ambassadors appointed. It's one thing for the president or for a country to appoint or nominate ambassadors. It's quite another for the receiving country, rather, to decide whether to accept them or not. There's what is called agreement, where the Nigerian government would now write to this country and say, I'm sending this person or that person, and it's up to you to now do your checks to ensure that, yes, the person you're going to take in as an ambassador from this country, from Nigeria in this case, is actually up to what you have. So I think, with regard to what Dixon said, yes, some of these things that he has said would now feature in the investigation, background checks, by these countries. So
All right.
we shouldn't jump the gun before it gets there.
All right, let's go to the industry. Dangote's refinery has become what you would call a game changer. Expansion from a capacity of 650,000 barrels per day to 1.4 million barrels per day by the year 2028, aiming to make it the world's largest refinery. And then what this could do to boost Nigeria's energy dependence. Talk about reduction in pump price with both small and big players going to take fuel from its depot. Ilyasu, what's your sense of what is happening in that industry with Dangote?
Well, I think all the hoopla about whether Dangote is the right thing or not, I think it shouldn't, at this point, feature, because we have somebody who has committed his money into building or solving a solution, solving a problem for us in this country, whether you call it a monopolist or not. We've discovered oil in this country from 1959, and all that time till 1977, when the NNPC was set up, we were just in the wilderness. And then from 1977 to Dangote, we've had the oil industry in disarray, so to speak. NNPC has not been able to move a muzzle in the oil and gas industry in Nigeria and in the world, where its peers, the Petronas, the Petrobras of this world have gone up to. And Dangote has come in. He's now literally put his money where his mouth is. He has got all the fix to be able to make this country an oil hub for West Africa, for Africa, and he's already going ahead in that direction.
Yep.
And also, we need to be able to encourage him, just like other countries have encouraged their own oil and gas industry in the manner that they have done. Not to be able to put lacuna on his way, because right now we can see that his entry into the oil and gas industry has done quite a lot to this country.
Not just for Nigeria, it's disrupting the oil market in the world. Now, you mentioned the point, to put what you could call a clog. The resignation of Farouk Ahmed, the chief of the regulator NMDPRA, and of course, Wenga Komolafe, after meetings with the president. Wenga is of the NUPRC. One paper captures it this way. It says, Dangote quakes, Farouk resigns. Well, some of the accusations of Dangote really is what Ilyasu just talked about, issuing of import licenses, colluding with international importers, hurting the locals. Raimi, where do you stand on that? Their resignation, the president calling, having a meeting with the two men, and the question of should resignation replace accountability? Some watchers in the system are making that statement.
A great question you have asked. My position is that the president acted promptly. First of all, he has encouraged Dangote Refinery since he came on board to see the light of the day. Of course, the refinery didn't start with his regime, but he who starts a journey is not an accomplished person, except somebody who is able to push it to a logical conclusion. He ensured that there is crude for Naira, opportunity for Dangote. He has created an enabling environment. And Dangote himself, as you are aware, has been singing praises of the president since ever for all the encouragement that he has given. Every Nigerian should give Dangote Refinery and Alhaji Dangote, who has expended $20 billion in building this refinery, all the encouragement that is required. We have continued to see the advantages, I've argued on this platform and in every other platform over time, of the tremendous advantages, good quality products, no more queue. Look at this season. If it were in the last 10, 15 years, people during this period will be queued and be banned. You will have been seeing kegs or, all across our road. Dangote is supplying the local market, is also exporting in order for us to get a foreign exchange that we require. As regards the resignation, those people, the two airship of the industry that you have mentioned that have resigned, you have asked a very good question. Their resignation should not stop accountability. The president should ensure that the ICPC, of course, the president is not even dictating to any of these institutions. He has said it over time that the head of agencies should do their job. So I want accountability on this matter. Nigeria will be proud to see if there are any wrongs that have been done by these people, especially Farouk, he should carry the brunt. And if it's Dangote that have alleged wrongly, the man can also sue for the defamation.
Therefore, investigation should go on.
And this should be a lesson for other head of agencies, marketer, everybody should give support. And lastly, I also want us not to keep quiet about our own NNPCL refinery. The Dangote refinery should not be a total substitute to the Port Harcourt refinery, Warri refinery, Kaduna refinery. How much have we spent that has not given us the result we require? Who are the past ministers and head of agencies that were culpable in this matter? Until Nigeria stand up to make judgment and justice and punish people
the question
for
of
wrongdoing,
Raimi, you made a very good statement there.
Progress.
One must say, so let's not allow Dangote cover the eyes of Nigerians, because over the years we've been told NNPC the refinery is ready, the turnaround turnaround maintenance has happened, it will start next day, it will start next year, and yet nothing happened. So I mean, let me come to you, Dixie. Hurried, that's what some are calling it, hurried replacement of these two heads of agencies might unsettle stakeholders. And Abakoba says that this transcends commercial disagreement and strikes at the heart of Nigeria's governance and its hydrocarbon resources. What's your take on this and the fact that things should be done normally? Because at a point, what we heard was that Farouk Ahmed insisted that even though he's Dangote, things ought to be done normally. I mean, there were that talk here and there before this spat between the two resulted to their resigning. Yes, Dixon.
I agree with that position because by every means that someone is accused of doing something wrong and the person resigns is not enough. But unfortunately, that has been the style of this government. Recall Betta Adu, the former Minister for Humanitarian Affairs. Recall former Minister for Science and Technology and all of that. And once there's a resignation, then it's more like a pat in the back and say, go and sin no more and all that. But the issues that I call him comrade now, Comrade Aliko Dangote, who is the highest player in the oil sector at the moment. The issues in the oil sector that he has, challenges that he has identified in the sector and all of that, which is the main issue, the issue of corruption in that sector. Some of us have always argued that the removal of subsidy is not what Nigeria government should have done. What needed to be done is fight the corruption in the oil sector. Now that this private sector player has come in big and all of that, that rot came to want to consume him. But because he has set a structure that is workable and all of that, robust, beyond the rot in our system, that is why he could boldly, in the media will say allegedly, but he was bold to state the facts. And if this government really means well for this country, I think that every allegation raised should be investigated, and whoever is found wanting should face the wrath of the law.
All right.
But let's not forget that the Minister of Petroleum is the president.
Yeah, we'll leave it there. Let's go to some other issues. Okay. Let's talk about notable deaths this year. I had guests here, I discussed with them about the death of course, our late president, Muhammadu Buhari, who passed on this particular year too. So, Ilyasu, maybe one or two things about that, because I discussed that issue yesterday, but let's also look at Edwin Clark, who I gather worked with Gowon. In fact, he worked with so many past military presidents and was advisor. He was so many things that I think he was the first minister of was it Works?
Information.
Information,
Yes.
sorry, yes, I just remember. So let's Ilyasu, discuss briefly, because we'll have just about 6 minutes.
Yeah, about Buhari, interestingly,
you could talk about Buhari, Edwin Clark, briefly.
Yeah.
Raimi would take up the
Buhari, well, interestingly, I was I was a co-author of his first biography.
Oh, really?
When he was military head of state. It was a publication of the Federal Ministry of Information, which I was employed in then, and we went to see him, discuss with him, and he said, "Look, go to my roots where people know me better. I can't sit down in Dodan Barracks and tell you all about myself. There are people I went to school with, people who knew me when I was growing up." So we went there, and we saw in the process, we saw General Eradua, we saw General Martins Adamu, we saw and talked with them, and so many other people, Justice Abdullahi, and in the process, we found that General Buhari was such a very stubborn, ascetic person who was, very, very obdurate. And in fact, it was even, corroborated by his chief of staff, General Danjuma, who said, "Look, he could be stubborn, he could be rigid, and all that." And of course, you could see he was. Even his wife, said something about that. But that's not to say the man was very, very patriotic. Really, he fought for this country. Yeah, he had negative issues,
like everyone else.
But I think in terms of his ability, I think he was able to give this country what he could give.
Yeah,
and, whatever he could. Yeah, Edwin Clark. Well, I don't know what to say, but he is what I would call an icon, an iconic icon, if I will use that term, because he spoke his mind. He was a dogged fighter for the rights of the people of Niger Delta and Ijaw people, and his presence, even though at some point he was looked upon as quite pugnacious, but at the same time he was also a lover of Nigeria.
He defended what he believed in.
Yes.
Raimi, let's talk about Payo Adebanjo and Adedoyo Okupe. Adedoyo Okupe incidentally had running issues with his health. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Ayo Adebanjo is a renowned nationalist. And may the soul of Pa Adebanjo, our former president, and all that you have mentioned, and including those that are not mentioned, rest in perfect peace. He fought for, he's a leader of Afenifere. He was part of all the processes that led to the liberation.
All right,
of
Adedoyin Okupe.
Adedoyin,
I don't have all the time.
Adedoyin Okupe, of course, we also know is a dogged politician, and he paid his due in the political arena, and I believe that he also contributed to the political development of Nigeria.
All right, I come to you, Dixon. Just 11 December, Lawrence Iroegbu, the deputy governor of Bayelsa State, he passed on, and of course, Cornelius Adebayo, former Kwara State governor. Then, of course, our own dear reporter, Somi Maduagu, we also lost her, just about 29. We also lost her here. Attacks of talk about insecurity. Yeah, just chip in on those people.
Yeah, I'll start with Somi, who I knew personally. Somi, the first contact that I had with Somi, I admired her personality. She commanded presence and substance, And from there we developed friendship, and it was devastating when I heard about her demise and all that. It was very, very disheartening to hear the way she passed on, and may her soul rest in peace.
All right, we'll leave it there, Dixon. That's what we can take on that one. Incidentally, Somi, gentleman, was supposed to have a birthday, or just 2 days from today. She was supposed to be 30. My daughter was born on the 12th. She's a December girl, lady, just like Somi.
I'm a December boy too.
All right, congratulations or happy birthday. But I mean, it was a huge loss to Arise News. Of course, we'll say good repose for her life at death. And of course, all these ones that we have mentioned that passed on. Gentlemen, I'd like to thank you for being on the program to make it what it has been today. Ilyasu, Taufik, and of course, Mazi Dixon. over there. Well, that's it for this edition of Arise Prime Time. Do join us again tomorrow. For me and the entire team here in Abuja, goodbye and thank you for watching.